I actually used to really like this game when I was much younger. However, the more after playing it to the end, I've come to realize that I actually didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I did. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Sly 3 tends to shove a lot of different elements into the gameplay, and I sometimes feel like that it... Okay. That's enough of that. Let's pretend that shit never happened. I know I reviewed this game at an earlier date, but I guess I'm doing it again because, well, one, I've already reviewed Sly 2, and two, I feel like I could have done a much better job compared to this. The video game trifecta theory posits the development of quality in a trilogy of video games. So, for instance, the first game establishes all the initial concepts. The second game expands upon it, and the third game polishes it to the finest. Spyro Year of the Dragon is very much an example of the third game being the best in the trilogy of games. It really expanded and polished all the concepts that were introduced in Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, to near perfection. The third game could also be an example of when the developers start to add way too much to the original formula, to the point that the player gets the sense that either the formula was getting too stale, or that the developers were running out of ideas of what to do with the series. Again, Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon also kind of serves as an example of this, considering that some people felt that playing as different characters was a bit of an overkill for the Spyro gameplay. For the Sly Cooper trilogy, Thieves Raccoonus established the mix of platforming and stealth. Sly 2 Band of Thieves expanded more upon the stealth elements in the gameplay and provided new features like an open world and additional characters. And as for Sly 3, well, we're getting to that one. There are a lot of signs that point towards Sucker Punch making Sly 3 a very ambitious game. For instance, the game opens in medias res. Now, Sly 1 and 2 also opened in medias res, where the characters were doing a breaking and entering heist. However, for Sly 3, it almost feels as if the medias res opens in the middle of the game. I mean, who are all these characters that the game throws our way? Fun fact, I initially thought that Sly and Bentley had rounded up all these people to make a first attempt at the Cooper Vault, and then when that failed, they went out and tried to find additional members for the Cooper gang in order to make a stronger gang to break into the Cooper Vault. But no, that's not the story at all. Of course, my younger self was pretty pathetically stupid, and in reality, it all takes place in a flashback setting within Sly's head. Of course, this might add to some special cinematic flair that Sucker Punch created for the story. However, if you are brand new to the Sly Cooper series, then yes, you will be confused, or most likely will be confused with what is going on here. So, the main point of the plot is that Sly needs to go around and find as many members to increase the number in the Cooper gang in order to unlock the Cooper Vault, which is trying to be broken into by Dr. M. This may seem like a very simple plot in the outset. However, I do feel that the game does a good job at making Sly 3 feel like this is Sly's final test. And I do feel that it brings a certain amount of closure to the series, especially after the whole Clockwork affair. However, similar to Sly 2, along with the serious tone of the story, Sly 3 also delivers on humorous lines of dialogue. And Sly 3 probably has the funniest dialogue of all three games.
Mama's making spaghetti tonight and I'm starving. I'm gonna eat like 3, no 4 plates of food.
I guess that you really like her cooking.
Mamma mia, I want to be buried in her sauce. It's a heaven.
Let me see a sample of your work. I have a keen eye, a great sense of artistic value. I can tell at a glance if you're world class.
But of course, Your Excellency.
You have a strong sense of, compositional regularity and, forced perspectivism. These are adequate. You may have the honor of photographing my wedding.
Of course, some of the serious parts of the game also really shined through by the character interaction within the game.
That doesn't make any of this real. Years have passed, and we both changed. Come out of this trance. Let's meet each other as we are today, and let go of who we were when this fight occurred.
You are
correct. Forgive me. My mind is not always my own.
I especially liked the interaction between Penelope and Bentley. There was so much chemistry. And it's just so sad to see just what happens in... Hey. Wait a second. We don't talk about that. Oh. Yeah, just forget I even mentioned that. I guess if there were any problems I had with the writing, it's in episode 2, where the gang has to face off against a mask. Like, this mask has a personality of its own. It attaches itself to other hosts. And one of the ways that Sly, Bentley, and Murray try to dispose of it is by having Murray disguise as something that the mask fears and basically ambush it. And the whole concept is just so stupid and ridiculous. And I almost feel like it's not the good kind of stupid and ridiculous, by the way. And it almost felt like Sucker Punch wasn't sure what to do with this. And I'm very well aware that in previous Sly games, there have been other paranormal instances and activities within the villain's base. However, this time it just goes a little too far to the extreme. I mean, like, a mask? Seriously, Sucker Punch? You couldn't think of anything better than a mask? And I guess one itty-bitty problem that I have with Sly 3 is that it feels like one big epilogue to cap off the trilogy. Most of the story, Sly is going around the world gathering members to expand the Cooper gang to unlock the Cooper Vault. How is this different from gathering clockwork parts in Sly 2 or taking out Fiendish 5 members in Sly 1? Well, in Sly 2 at least, there was a conflict that was kind of going on in the background of the game with the whole Neela betrayal and the clogging, sort of shipping spices. Heck, there were even some twists and turns with clogging stealing the Cooper Gang's clockwork parts towards the end of the game. So no such twist really happens in Sly 3. There is one section where Bentley expresses a certain degree of jealousy towards Sly for his position in the gang. However, this wasn't really built up very properly, and it does feel a little shoehorned in. And I guess there is a surprise twist with the identity of Dr. M, but I won't spoil it right now. I guess there's not really too much to talk about the music, voice acting, and graphics of the game. I will say that this game does look a lot better compared to Sly 2. Many of the textures look a lot brighter, and the character models look much more colorful compared to the darker colors in Sly 2. The overall soundtrack and OST is also very good. As for the voice acting, well, it's mainly the same and just as good as before. However, I will say that I'm not sure why Chris Murphy gave Murray a higher pitched voice, but I do prefer the more the buffer, sort of deeper voice of Murray from Sly 2 compared to this one, because it did make him feel a bit more tougher and like the Murray. It's just a small thing though. Overall, the voice acting is generally really good. In terms of the gameplay, Sly 3 definitely makes a lot of improvements over Sly 2. Bentley and Murray have become much easier to navigate around with, considering they have been given their own assets in order to adapt to the open world that Sly is in. Now Bentley and Murray have the ability to pickpocket guards. What's more is that the clue bottles are no longer present in the worlds, meaning that there is no need to go out of your way to look for them. Now, most of the exploration revolves around getting to the destination points. The world feels a lot easier to get around in with Bentley and Murray, since there were a lot of trampolines present in order to get to the rooftops and higher places. Besides these two, the game also introduces a host of other characters to play as. After all, you are gathering together additional members of the Cooper gang in order to open the vault. The Guru is the first member you get on your side. His gameplay involves mind control and transforming into objects. When I was younger, I used to think that he was the worst character because he ran too fast while he was mind controlling different enemies. However, playing through it now, I definitely think he is the best character to play as. It's just so satisfying being able to ram him into structures and walls and the like. Besides the Guru is Penelope. She controls both an RC car and a copter. The copter involves you trying to dismantle different guards in order to prevent them from attacking a certain point, whether it be Murray or a base. For the most part, this is functional and is a lot more fun than haphazardly dropping bombs all over the place. The RC car is mostly designed to go in small areas and speed down the aisle. These are really fun, but there is one part where you have to carefully navigate around these lasers, which just kills the pace. Physics is also very sensitive with the RC car, so that can be frustrating when you're running up against walls. Then you have the Panda King. His gameplay for the most part is very dull, like lifting several boxes on a Wednesday night work shift. I'll just play this clip just to show how tedious his gameplay is. Fair enough. Finally, there's Dimitri. He mostly swims and shoots darts at oncoming enemies, fairly slow-paced, and you wonder why it is even in the game because you only have to be doing it like 3 times. The controls are stiff, especially when you're sliding out a tube in the last level. I died probably millions of times to this part, more than I can count. Those were all the characters. Sucker Punch also gave the opportunity to play other vehicles, too. The biplane and pirate ships control right. The biplane is no ace combat, but at least I am able to control it well. These segments in Flight of the Fancy took only a couple of tries. Sometimes it's hard to figure out where the ceiling is and the plane autocorrects, but they're still manageable. Pirate ship is also a lot of fun to control. Blasting other ships becomes satisfying, and this can be a very easy way to grind lots of money for our abilities. Oh yeah, and I forgot to talk about how you can play as Carmelita Fox, too. She mainly plays as a third-person shooter, and I would consider her to be better than Penelope, but not as fun as the Guru, so probably like second best other character to play as. And then you also have these point and click segments where you have to choose the right answer in order to correctly interact with the character. And there's nothing much to say about these other than the pirate joke one where they actually did something unique with it. The same kind of go for the disguises. They're mainly just there to kind of enhance on the stealth gameplay, but didn't feel like they added too much to the gameplay overall. Everything ultimately comes together towards the ending of Sly 3. The final world tests everything you've learned throughout the course of the game. You'll be mind-controlling sharks with the Guru, flying biplanes, and engaging Dr. M in aerial combat. It gives a sense of closure to the game. In one final level, Sly 3 throws everything in to create one ecstatic ending sequence. Sly finally encounters Dr. M to finish him off. During their meeting, he quickly learns that Dr. M is none other than a former comrade to Connor Cooper. In fact, he played Bentley's role in that gang. Now, I do feel that this does feel a bit rushed. You never seem to know the real significance between Dr. M's character until the end. All this Dr. M revelations and trying to turn Bentley against Sly comes across as thought out at the last minute. However, I do like how Bentley references brotherhood when talking about Sly. It really demonstrates the strength of their bond. Although everything pays off with being able to venture inside the Cooper Vault. You'll not only be met with some of the trickiest platforming challenges the series has to offer, but you'll also get a look at the long line of Coopers throughout history. You will get a sweet taste of Sly's ancestors without this feeling like a museum exhibit, and it is a nice touch to cap things off. Finally, you will get to fight Dr. M, and I must say that this is probably the best final boss in the entire series. He will mainly rely on elements to combat you, but if you are skilled, you'll be able to avoid his attacks. At the end, Carmelita comes in, and just before she gets blasted, Sly intervenes and takes the blast for her. He fakes amnesia, and just as everything is crumbling before them, they escape. One of the best parts of the ending of Sly 3 is how Sly kind of takes up the lesson of humility that he learned in episode 4. Instead of keeping his family legacy for himself, he gives it all away in exchange for pursuing greater happiness, which is to him being able to be with Carmelita Fox. In one sense, General Sao and Sly are contrasts, considering that Sao looks at his family line with much importance, while Sly didn't let it be a defining aspect for him. Okay, that's enough of this tangent. I also really like how each member of the gang went their own separate way. It does sound like Bentley is hinting towards something, but at the same time it comes across as if he is leaving it open for the players to fill in. So that was Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. You know, in the past I had always held up Sly 2 to be the superior game. However, after playing through both Sly 2 and 3 for the sake of reviews, I think I enjoyed Sly 3 more. The gameplay was packed with variety without any of it interfering with the core gameplay. In Sly 2, it was very difficult to navigate around with Bentley and Murray, whereas in Sly 3, some of the characters play within their enclosed missions. So even though some of the characters' gameplay was a hit or a miss, it didn't feel like it got in the way of playing as Sly, Bentley, and Murray. As for the story, even though it was by the books, find each member kind of plot, it supplemented itself with the characterization and overall pacing. It was a joy watching each character interact and banter off with one another, which from time to time cracked a smile on my face. All in all, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves concludes the Sly Cooper trilogy with a resounding close. Well, thank God that's over. I'm glad that I was able to get through this entire trilogy of Sly Cooper and was able to keep my sanity at the same time. Man, it really felt good to actually finish an actual game series in one sense, instead of just doing like individual ones here and there. Well, I'm all burnt out with Sly Cooper. I'm very much ready to just move on to something else. Uh, Wait, what's that? Oh dear. Oh dear.